Mm-hmm. Hebrew is a very, very conceptual language, and sometimes the concepts are not very clear. The right of his firstborn.
My translation says initial vigor,
Right.
which I like.
The English speed here. Spending a little too much time, I think. It again.
Sure.
Verse 17, no, he must acknowledge as firstborn the son of the firstborn is his. And his mother are to take hold of him and bring him out to the leaders of the town and at the gate of that place. And he will say to the leaders of the town, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious and doesn't pay attention to us, lives wildly, gets drunk. They call this a son of Belial. I want to get back over here.
Son of what?
Belial. Let me go back over here. I think in other places they call him a son of Belial.
It seems really harsh, though, to kill him. And the sages say this has really never, ever happened. It never has gone to this extreme. It's supposed to be understood as an implied primer for parents.
Man worthy of death, and he is to be put to death, and you hang him on a tree. You shall not leave his body all night upon the tree. But shall in any wise bury him. Let me get back over to the English.
Are they trying to still make this the wild son?
Yeah.
Well, he got stoned to death.
Well, that's down here in verse 21.
Someone else has committed a capital crime to get hung.
Right.
Okay.
Remain on all night long on the tree. But you must bury him the same day, because he has been hanged as has been cursed by God has given.
Cursed by God?
Yeshua.
Wow. That gets deep real fast.
Yes, it does. See, God allowed him to become a curse on our behalf so that we could enter into covenant with Almighty Yahweh. So he took those curses from us upon himself, and he became a curse. And that's why he was hung on the tree. That's why he was not there overnight. And so,
All right.
so we can see God is merciful in all of his ways.
Amen.
Chapter 22, verse 1, you are not to watch your brother's ox or sheep straying and behave as if you haven't seen it. You must bring it back to your brother. If your brother is not close by, or you don't know who the owner is, you are to bring it home to your house, and it will remain with you until your brother asks for it. And when you are to give it back to him, then you are to give it back to him. You are to do the same thing with his donkey and his coat or anything else of your brother's that he loses. If you find something he lost, you must not ignore it. If you see your brother's donkey, go, but you may take the chicks for yourself, so that things will go well with you in the land, and you will prolong your life. Man, God words. But
Back to the compassion for the animals, maybe.
well, yeah, you can look at it as compassion for the animals, but who's the compassion really for? Be your brother's animal, and you go help the animal get up on its feet and carry its load. Who are you helping?
Your brother.
Because the animal's still having to carry the pack, okay? Now, if you want to really help the animal, you could take all the stuff on your own back and carry it to market, but that's not what's intended here. It's talking about being nice to your brother and not holding any faults with him.
The Torah forbids men and this isn't that good. It forbids men and women to adopt garb and other practices, excessive mingling that can lead to promiscuity and to preserve the normal and constructive differences between males and females. Thus, the sages apply this prohibition to men who are excessively concerned with personal grooming and to women who wear battle dress. I didn't even underline it. It wasn't that good.
Okay. I think it's often interesting, at the very least, why God puts certain pieces together the way he does.
Well, it's certainly a quandary in this case. What else do you see there?
Going back up, what's the character that is expected of us? What is he developing us when we have to do what's mentioned up in the previous verses?
Compassion.
Are you supposed to be developing characteristics that are godlike, that are a part of our call as a nation to be a priest for the earth?
Yes.
We're supposed to rise above our own selfish ambitions and to be like God created us and intends for us to be.
Absolutely.
So here in verse 1 and 22, chapter 22, when he's giving us these instructions, he is trying to mold us into an image that he likes in us. Going down, if you see your brother's donkey or ox collapse on the road, you're supposed to be caring for your brother's interests. He's paid money for that donkey or that ox or whatever, and it cost him not only with money but for time and training. He's had to train his animal to behave the way he wants it to.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may not come in there and just say, well, he didn't see it, so I'll just take it. It'll be my donkey now. That would be stealing, and God, it's not right for a man to do that. You should always ask, the first question is, well, wonder who this donkey belongs to. And then down in verse 5, a woman is not to wear men's clothing. What is she doing if she's wearing men's clothing? Is she not deceiving her brothers?
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie, what was it? Lady was wanting to study Talmud. It's played by, Yentl.
Oh.
Did you see Yentl?
Was Barbara Streisand
Yeah.
dressing like a boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First thing that popped into my head when I saw that movie is a woman is not to wear men's clothing. And it got her into trouble in the movie too, because
See?
this lady that was wanting to be her husband, or wife rather, because she looked like a man, and so she ended up getting herself in a really big mess of yuck through this movie. And I think that the movie's intention was to teach you that, the reasons why you should not be cross-dressing, if you will.
Okay.
It's just not what God likes, okay? In verse 6, well, one of the problems that created that whole mess was also underwritten in the movie too. And that is that it's not God's plans to segregate women from education. And so when Barbara Streisand is at Yentl, she understood that God didn't want her dumb, and she was seeking out a heart of wisdom and knowledge. And so who knows what God could have done with her if she'd have gone on through with that in a conforming way with the Torah's instructions. My goodness, what could she have done for other women who are wanting the same thing? So just because men have this phobia against women learning, that doesn't make it right. So anyway, in verse 6 it says,
amen to that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've seen some really beautiful women come through Zion that are just beautiful in their knowledge and their ability to learn. Yes, sir?
Even my daughter is
Restricting women in the way they have done, especially in the way that is not chapter. And I don't think it's God's will that we should hold women back.
Just the one? No, you've done more than one.
I know, but that's what really hit the fan, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't care. I pray and seek God's face, and he says ordain her. I'm going to ordain her. Verse 6, if you are walking along and you see a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground with chicks or eggs, the mother bird is sitting on the chicks or the eggs, you're not to take the mother with the chicks. So in other words, it's okay to take the chicks, but it's not okay to take the mother. Because what's going to happen to those little chicks if you take the mother?
Well, they'll die.
Yeah, they don't. That's how they live, is by their mother feeding them. So anyway, this one is puzzling the way it's worded, and I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but there's something wrong with the translation, I believe. But you cannot take the mother with the chicks. Now, I don't know why it says that. There may be some big spiritual reason for it, but I don't see it.
Oh, the commentary compares it to cooking a
Commentary.
Yeah.
Rabbi. I've raised birds of all kinds, thousands. When she's got chicks in the nest, she'll kill them. Even on the chicken. If you just leave the nest alone, and they'll do just fine. If you take the chicks, they'll grow fine. But if you take the mother and the chicks together, she'll kill them.
Interesting.
So are we to glean something from the men wearing women's garments being right in between two passages that are about compassion for animals?
More than likely. God put these things in the order he wanted them in.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to have an open discussion on that sometime.
Well, we can do it now if you want.
I just don't know where to go with it.
You need to research it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the question?
we've got passages dealing with compassion for animals, pulling an ox out of a ditch, and then all of a sudden it says, male garb shall not be on a woman, and a man shall not wear a feminine garment. Back to compassion for birds and the babies in the bird's nest.
Mm-hmm.
And just how are we supposed to tie that together? You know, it's another quandary.
It's very interesting.
Because both maybe has to do with the next generation of life.
Maybe.
Because in the context, by the way, where are we? Where in Deuteronomy is this?
22, verse 7.
Verse 5 is where
Yeah.
Because I want to again make sure I'm in the context.
It's all the
as
way
well.
from verse 1 all the way up until where we're at, which is verse 8. When you build a new house, you must build a low wall around your roof. That wouldn't work on our house. Otherwise, someone may fall from it, and you will be responsible for his death. They're in the very same area, and how the contextual flow arranges itself and what the message is behind it.
next verse is interesting too.
Verse 9, you're not to sow two kinds of seed between your rows of vines. So if you've got cantaloupes and you got some watermelons and you sow another kind in the middle, why?
Well, they might cross-pollinate.
Always been a little cautious about hybridization.
I'm really leery myself.
Me too.
Times, because if you mix a horse with a donkey, it makes a mule. Sterile.
Uh-huh.
They will never reproduce. Yeah. And
So that's probably what's happening. Oh, a lot more meat and a lot less seed.
yeah, no seeds have to spit out.
Remember the movie Oh God?
Wow, that's
And
way back there.
he was so now they're probably going to try to cross-pollinate it, see if they can get seeds to go away completely out of it. You like your guacamole, huh?
Oh yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So why shouldn't you have it? Why do you think God would tell us don't plow with a?
Not equally yoked.
That's right, and it causes one
Yes.
that ox can probably pull 10 times the weight of the donkey, and the donkey's going to have to go a lot faster just to keep up with the ox. And it wouldn't be fair for the ox and the donkey to yoke together. Well, you're not to wear clothing woven with two kinds of thread, wool and linen, together.
I didn't remember that was in there.
Okay, so what about a suit that has wool and rayon?
You're faking somebody out.
You're cheating if it's wool, more expensive garment. But if you can mix it with flax or cotton or linen, then it cheapens the material, and yet it still looks like wool. So consequently, it's a means or a way that people have learned to be able to cheat people on their quality of their products. You get cotton a lot cheaper than you can wool. So wear clothing woven with
And then, as yours to make your garment with what? 2 colors of thread. So just when we thought we were understanding,
where does it say?
It doesn't say it in this particular,
Chapter and verse,
Yeah,
please.
but it does say to put the techelet in there.
Yes, it does say
Other
that in
places.
another place, that the seat, the word here is seat in the corners of your garments. And it does not say anything about techelet in this reference, but it does say it in another reference to wearing the seat in the four corners of your garments.
Excuse me. How does this scripture refer to anything about color?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. I was just making a point.
Why do you think God says to put the twisted cords in the corners of your garments? That's a rhetorical question because I know the answer.
Well, we know that the reason is so that we will see them and remember the commandments.
Yes. And it is specifically addressing the issue of the payas of your fields.
Corners. Gotcha.
So this is a reminder to be charitable directly.
Yeah.
Now there was another guy told me that the reason why God has us put the seat in the corners of our garments is so that we won't go out and commit adultery. Because if you drop your pants, okay, and whoops, there heck to your pants is the seat. And what's that represent for us? The law. And we're not supposed to be doing that. So hopefully it'll keep us walking a true and straight path.
Amen.
But it does say in the text where it's talking about the seat that you may not commit adultery, but it's talking about adultery against your God.
Actually, it doesn't say tzitzit, it says konfot.
Hmm?
In this passage, it doesn't say the Hebrew word tzitzit in the text. It says konfot.
Is that the corners? We'll go
Okay.
down and look at it.
Yeah, we need to look at it. Oh yeah, konfot is corners. Kasutka.
Gidilim is the word for fringes.
Oh, there it is then.
Verse 12. And ta'aseh you shall make l'cha for you all arba, the four kanpot. Kanpot, an edge or extremity, a wing.
Okay, corners. Quarters.
But it doesn't say corners. It says the fringes. That actually is referring to fringes.
But but it doesn't say tzitzit in this particular passage. This is what my comment was. Gedolim.
Fringes or extremity.
Do you have a way to illustrate this, if not today, in the near future? Because I'm lost.
I've got one in my toilet bag over there.
Okay. Okay. Because again, would help me.
Bring me up for full screen
Fringes
and
all
have
over.
somebody bring a camera up on it.
Okay.
You too?
There I found no evidence that she was a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Then the girl's father and mother are to take the evidence of the girl's virginity. What is that talking about?
The initial blood.
Okay. We're going to have to get a little bit graphic here to explain what it is. When a woman is a virgin, she has a skin covering over her vagina that is called a hymen. And the first time she has intercourse, that hymen breaks, and it does cause some bleeding. And that bleeding will then run down on the bedding, and that is a stain on it that will not wash out. That is a permanent stain in the garment that's pretty much permanent. And the parents would take this garment, this bedding, and lay it aside, so that if she is ever accused of not having been a virgin when they married, then they can pull these bedding sheets out and prove that she did have the bleeding on the garment as a result of her first intercourse. And therefore, it's unquestioned among the rabbis and the Messianic community and the Jewish community that if that stain is there, then she definitely was a virgin. And why is that? Beyond the shadow of doubt that this woman was indeed a virgin when they married. Okay?
Yep.
So, there it is, unwashed and in black and white. No, anyway.
Well, that was straightforward enough.
Okay. So the girl's father and mother will take the evidence of the girl's virginity, which is the bed sheets, to the leaders of the town at the gate. And the girl's father will say to the leaders, I let my daughter marry this man, but he hates her. So he has brought false charges that he didn't find evidence of her virginity. Yet here's the evidence of my daughter's virginity. Right here, you see the stain on this sheet. And they will lay the cloth before the town leaders. The leaders of the town are to take the man and punish him, and fine him 2.5 pounds of silver shekels, which they will give to the girl's father because he has publicly defamed a virgin of Israel. She will remain his wife, and he is forbidden from divorcing her for as long as he lives. Yes.
What? Notice, and we know what the answer is, but why would they go to the gates of the city?
Because that's where the judges were. Have you ever been to a court
House.
of law?
Court? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the
It's in the
courtyard is where the
Courtyard, there you go.
original judges had little benches around the courtyards where they would sit and hear matters and decide cases. And that's what this is talking about.
That's where it is.
You had a question, Shane?
Yes, so in this scripture, and again, understanding the context of
Can you
the
get the mic closer to
previous.
you? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
So in context to a previous lesson, to understand the significance of the financial amount being stated here, 2.5 pounds of silver shekels. So I remember reading this verse before in another open group at that time, long ago. And they were like, I'm so glad this is done away with. This is so horrible. How can you put an amount on that?
Yeah.
So can you explain the significance of why God would put this amount on that?
It's more or less a hand slap for having done something wrong.
Well, okay, 2.5 pounds of silver shekels back then to today equate that. Let's just give it as an example.
Oh.
Well, it was a pretty healthy fine,
Would it have been like to our equivalent of a couple $100?
probably,
$2,000?
something like that.
A couple hundred.
Mine says 100 silver shekels. What did you say?
Well, a shekel is,
Find him 2.5 pounds of silver shekels.
let's see what it says in the
Yeah,
Hebrew.
go to the Hebrew.
22:18.
And at that time, they couldn't figure out what this meant in
Because they didn't read Hebrew, so they wouldn't know what it actually said. There's kesef.
Shekels, which is of silver.
Ooh, that is quite a bit. Silver's what? $6 a pound? $6 an ounce now, I think.
Something I think like that.
Okay.
So 100 of them would be $600.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says he can never divorce her after that. Men in Judaism never have been able to, still can't in modern Judaism today. Most synagogues will not allow a woman to divorce her husband. So what if there's a cause? As if this guy's a real stinking rotten rat, what can they do to help the girl if she's trapped in a marriage and he won't divorce her? Whatever the dirty, rotten, stinking part of him is doing. Maybe he's taking drugs and beating up. You know, could be anything.
So what's the answer?
Well, Rabbi told me that he had a couple that were in that situation. Issued a get.
Good.
They were calling him all day and night.
And go somewhere else. And she so she, according to the Torah, she's to be stoned.
Then they shall pelt her to death.
Still in her father's house. And this and verse 23 and 24 talks about dealing with a woman who is already vowed to be the future bride of a man who she is a virgin, and if somebody comes along and has sexual relations with her, that is adultery. It's counted as adultery.
Yes.
And you're to bring them both out to the gate of the city and stone them to death. The girl, because she you will put an end to such wickedness. And I know absolutely divorce her and do everything he could to ruin life. She didn't cry out for help, so she had called out for help. So since she's down, then she's guilty. But if she is out, that's one of the conditions of the become his wife. He may not divorce her as long as he lives. So she's taken care of. A man is not to take his father's wife, thus violating his father's rights. A man with crushed or damaged private parts may not enter the assembly of Adonai. In other words, he can't go to the annual Moedim.
Nor may a mamzer.
A mamzer, what is a mamzer?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Huh?
What
I've
is
got
that?
something on it. A mamzer is someone born of a union between a man and a woman whose marriage could never be valid, such as the union between a brother and a sister, or other such forms of incest.
So he may not enter the assembly of Yahweh, nor may his descendants down to the 10th generation enter the assembly of Adonai. A Ammoni or a Moabite or Ammonite may enter the assembly of Yahweh, nor may any of his descendants down to the 10th generations. Notice it says his
Yes.
descendants down to the 10th generation enter the assembly of Yahweh, because they did not supply you with food and water when you were on the road leaving Egypt, because they hired Balaam the son of Beor from Petor in Aram Naharim to put a curse on you. But Adonai your God would not listen to Balaam. Rather, Adonai your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because Adonai your God loved you. So you are to never seek their peace or well-being.
But Ruth was a Moabite
That's right.
and the grandmother of David.
But she was not a male.
Exactly. Exactly, because it does say Moabi and Ammoni.
And those are males.
Those are males only. We were discussing this earlier.
When you are in the camp at war with your enemies, you are to guard yourself against anything bad. If there is a man among you who is unclean because of nocturnal emissions, he is to go outside the camp. He is not to enter the camp. When evening arrives, and he is to bathe himself in water, and after sunset he may enter the camp. You are to have an area outside the camp to use as a latrine, and you must include a trowel, a shovel, with your equipment. And when you relieve yourself, you're to dig a hole first. Afterwards, cover up your excrement. For Yahweh your God moves in your camp, about your camp, to rescue you and hand over your enemies to you. Therefore, your camp must be a holy place. Adonai should not see anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you.
It's interesting how complete these rules are.
Yeah.
Every little detail.
That they don't even use the same restroom, is that they won't use a restroom inside their encampment in Israel. They always have the restrooms outside somewhere.
Right.
Okay, so that they're following this scripture.
Yes. If a slave has escaped from his master and taken refuge with you, you are not to hand him back to his master. Now, there's a reason for this. What would be the reason? Let's think this thing through.
He could have been beaten. I mean, he could have been mistreated.
If he's being mistreated, that's forbidden for a master to mistreat a slave in Israel. And the reason it's forbidden is because you were slaves in Egypt.
There it is.
And don't you treat your slaves that way.
It says at the end, do not mistreat him.
Do not mistreat him. No woman of Israel is to engage in ritual. No man of Israel is to engage in ritual homosexual prostitution. Nothing brothers of your Israelite brothers with interest is to be forbidden.
Right.
And you can lend to an outsider with interest, not to an Israeli. And when you are making Yahweh, you're not to delay fulfilling it. If you choose not to make a vow at all, that will not be.
Consummates the marriage, but later finds her displeasing.
Read a little further. He may not marry her again. The original husband may not marry her again.
No, but her question was
She's no longer a
She's not, yeah, she's been humiliated.
husband cannot go back and marry her again later because she has been defiled.
Right.
That's what this is about.
That's different context.
I have a
Context.
question about Vilma.
Oh.
Rape and Absalom went and murdered, killed. In anger, went and killed him.
yeah.
David's daughter.
Yeah.
Yes. She was.
When that's Tamara.
Tomorrow, was it tomorrow?
Yehuda's daughter.
Oh, you're right.
No. The wife of both of Yehuda's sons.
Yes, and she did that to carry for, or to the seed of Yehuda.
Yep.
To carry on the lineage.
Look at verse 25, which would be 24 in the Christian Bibles. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat enough grapes to satisfy your appetite, but you're not to put any in your basket.
Where's that?
Chapter 23, verse 25.
Oh, back to the corners of
Mm-hmm.
the field.
And it continues about plucking ears from with your hands. You're not to put a sickle or to your neighbor's grain.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Getting back to a relationship matter, we talked about where the woman was suspected and brought forth. What happens when you find out that the woman you married that was promised to you as a virgin is not? What then is to happen?
That was addressed also.
Yeah. That was so yesterday.
She gets
But
stoned to death.
yesterday's gone.
She gets stoned to death.
And if the man's known who it is, he gets stoned to death too.
This is all good stuff.
What if she goes and gets married again and then the second husband dislikes her?
Tough.
Verse 3 of chapter 24.
Poor thing.
In such a case, her first husband, who sent her away, may not take her again as a wife,
Right.
because she is now defiled. It would be detestable to Adonai, and you're not to bring about sin in the land of Adonai your God has given you as your inheritance.
So what if you're not in the land?
Well, the laws for when you're in the land are suspended when you're not in the land. If a man has recently married his wife, he is not to be subject to military service. He is to be free from external obligations, left at home for 1 year to make his new wife happy.
Did they do that in Israel?
Yeah.
That's too bad they didn't do that here. How many men did it take?
Yeah.
Just gotten married?
They never came back.
Never came back.
But anyway, there's a lot of really good, useful things here in this section about kidnapping and if there's a outbreak of leprosy, what you do. When you make any kind of a loan to your neighbor, you're not to enter his house and take his collateral. You must stand outside, and the borrower will bring the collateral outside to you. And if he is poor, you are not to go to his bed with that what he gave as collateral in your possession. Rather, you must restore the pledge of item at sunset. And then he will go to sleep wearing his garment bless you. This will be an upright deed of yours before Yahweh your God.
More compassion.
So if the land is pertaining to Israel, and you've said earlier that some of these laws are suspended, the marriages in America then are not really subject to the laws. Is that right?
Yes. But the fact is, there are no Bibles in America.
Right.
And of course, there are going to be a lot of pastors hear this and go, not. Yeah, well, chapter and verse, please.
Maybe I didn't understand it enough. What about the marriages here?
Am I getting beat around the ears already?
They're
Yeah.
not biblical based.
Marriages here in America only have a form and semblance of biblical qualifications. They are not actually biblical marriages. Because what if Joseph went to buy his wife here in this country for money in this day and this time? Would he be allowed to own her as a slave? Why? Because slavery has been abolished. Of course, there's never been biblical slavery in this country either, and that's why it doesn't matter whether they abolished it or not.
Yeah, but Joseph's wife was in Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you mean Joseph? Or just any Joe?
Any Joe. Giving me a hard time. Olivia, would you please hit him around the ears? By the way, did you know that a woman may not beat a man
Really?
unless she has witnesses that prove that she did something deserving of it?
Or he deserves it?
Mm-hmm.
Or he deserved it.
When you beat your olive tree. Oh, never mind. Anyway. Well, I think we've done enough damage for tonight.
Well, on the other hand, verse 16 of 24 says, fathers are not to be executed for the children,
Right.
nor children to be executed for the fathers. Every person will be executed for his own sin.
Right.
Forgive me, I seem to believe that there was a commandment of God through to, and I want to say it was in Isaiah. No, I'll find it. It says otherwise about the
Thank you.
the son paying for the price of the crimes for the father.
You know that God doesn't have any grandchildren, right?
That's a good point.
We're all children. We will all make it or not on the merit that we have. And that's why it's important for the Gentiles to come in and accept the blood atonement of Yeshua. Because otherwise they won't have a means of righteousness to stand before God in his presence. So I don't know if that came out right or not. My brain is starting to be fatigued, so I'm kind of slowing down. But you can't go in on your papa's skirt tails, in other words. You're going to have to stand there and receive your own righteousness, which would be the blood of Yeshua for you. And your children will be the same way. So there are no denominations going to be in heaven because that would be like accepting grandchildren.
Thank you.
Is that interesting?
Yes.
There was an instance also where if the parents came and said that their child. There was an instance where in the Bible, I can't remember exactly where, if the parents came and said that their child is just
Evil. Yeah, it's
evil.
in this portion.
Yeah.
It's in this
hmm And they just can't do anything about him. That he's and he's been an embarrassment, so he's to be stoned
Yeah.
to death. And it was like he was.
But
never-
the Jewish commentaries say there's never really been a time that they have in recorded history where that's been actually done. It's just a threat hanging over the kids. That they're going to walk
that's
the
a good
straight and true line, and they're not going to
That's
slip
a
to the side of it because they could end up being DEAD all over.
Oh, Well, if they would have done that after Solomon, where so many of those kings did evil in the sight of God, they would have had that on beforehand. They wouldn't have done all that evil.
David could have said, "You better behave or you're dead."
Yep.
Is that like in Nanny McPhee, where they said beehive? Beehive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a meaningless joke, sorry. All right, well, let's call this quits for tonight if you don't mind. I am kind of bushed at this point.
Okay. Quit.
All right, Father, I just ask you to go with us. Help us to remember our lessons that we studied today. Help us to truly connect with your heart in these matters and be our God and be our attorney and be our judge and be our righteous king. And we thank you for it, Lord, in the name of Yeshua. And we ask you to help us to become your servants and to be better ones, that we might not be ashamed when you come. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Well, that's about it for tonight. God bless you all. And please join us again on Shabbat for our morning class at 10 and our sermon and Torah session at around noon, 11 o'clock and noon. And then on Sundays we have our class at 4 to 5 on the radio, on the Bridge Radio. So I hope to see you here, there, someplace or another, or maybe in the air. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you for joining us for our weekly Torah class. I do apologize that we did have some streaming difficulties, and so what I'm going to do is upload the video for you as soon as possible so that you will see the full class and enjoy it. In the meantime, we hope to see you again this Shabbat at Tish's class at 11 a.m. main service. So in the meantime, we'll see you again.